Hey guys, Steve from Performotion. Today I'm going to be talking about differentiating between a heavyweight lifter and a lightweight lifter and how we go about programming them, peaking them through an off-season, well not peaking through an off-season, just general programming through an off-season, what we might do differently, and then also how we may peak them as well. So obviously we have a big difference in muscle mass and the way someone's going to be moving. Generally, a smaller person's going to be smaller, and a bigger person's going to be bigger, taller, longer limbs as well. So I think that they're things that we're definitely going to have to consider as well, but that's something that we'll probably go into on a later date. But first, I think the biggest thing is that knowing a smaller person can generally handle quite a bit more in the way that we're going to go about sort of programming that in a way where they can kind of reap the rewards from it, and then knowing that a larger person probably won't be able to handle as much, and they probably won't be able to push their block length as long as well, depending on how much weight they're moving and just how strong they are overall. So if I write some examples, I'm just going to do 4-week blocks for both. I think that's just the easiest way to do it, and generally, around powerlifting, how it's been for years, everyone's kind of just wrote 4-week blocks, so it's kind of easy just if I keep going like this, even though I think everyone kind of has a different sort of ideal block length, depending on how they perform, how they fatigue, and how they recover as well. But that's going to be very individualized as well, so I'm just going to do this in a way where both people have the same sort of block length. So if I write the heavyweight male, or just heavyweight in general, so if we're looking at, we'll start with like an off-season. You're gonna want to do, it's gonna have to start easy. So we're going to want to build momentum towards the end here. And depending how far they are away from also competing is where we're going to start and what we're going to start with. So if we generally think, I think we went over this in our last coaches chat, but the easiest way to probably do this, if we're in an off season, we are going to be quite, I guess, away from competition. And then, or we've just come out of competition. So we're not going to have to push the heavy stuff. We don't need to push the heavy stuff because that's not what gets us stronger. At the end of the day, the back down stuff or the repetitions and the sets, that's where we get stronger. The heavier stuff that, although I like to keep it in most programs year round, it doesn't necessarily make us stronger, it just creates more practice for us to be able to express the strength in, singles or something later on, because that's what we're going to be doing on the platform. But if we look at like this, if we're going to program, let's just use an example, an off season, we won't be probably doing singles maybe for a heavyweight now, because we're going to want to do a double or a triple or something, because one, we don't need to this practice in this skill right now unless there's someone that we know they do need it. But if we're doing triples, but we'll prescribe this to 1%. So they're limited there. We've fixed their load, we've selected their load for them, and they can't deviate from what we put here. The prescribed percent that you choose is, we're going to want to go up, each week. So, we'll go up like 2 to 5% each week. So this way we're still getting some kind of progression here through the load that you're going to be prescribing, but it's not enough to pull back from the work down here that we're doing after. So generally, if this is straight after a block, straight after a competition, we're not going to do much here regardless. So if we say we're only doing, let's say we're going to do 10s, although I may not program a heavyweight person 10s, but it's just an easy way to use an example. We're doing 10s here. Prescribe this to an RPE. this gives the athlete more chances and more opportunity to really capitalize on what they believe they're capable of, rather than being stuck here where it's going to be very submaximal load. This is going to be submax to start with. Like, you've got to start at, at a 5-ish, somewhere quite low on the RPE scale. Only because we've just come off a block or a competition and we don't need anything to be hard. The next week, generally would add a set here, and then just keep this the same. So as the athlete progresses through here, they're going to create the adaptations here. You're increasing the load a little bit, depending on how much they lift. They'll end up here and we'll create some sort of adaptations, but this is where the money's going to be made. So in this bottom part here, what they're doing for their back down kind of stuff, just because we know that this is what gets us stronger. This gives someone, it's a stimulation for working with heavier loads and getting that practice in, rather than just, if we prescribe this to an RP, someone can come in, go a little bit too hard, and they won't be able to finish this block on an upward trend. They're going to end up crashing around here because they've just gone too hard. And generally after this kind of week here, which is a deload or a resensitization sort of week, they will feel really strong here. That's just kind of like we've tapered, and then we would be able to push here, but if this is capped here, they won't be able to. But this, especially for a first set, they're going to be able to push it a lot harder. I think that's generally how we do it for a heavyweight person. If we look, I'm going to write one now for a lighter. We'll go 4 weeks again. Now, just from working with a lot of lighter weight people, I know that we can push relative intensity so much further than a heavier weight person. They don't have as much muscle mass, they're generally not moving the bar as far, and we can get through a lot more. Just in terms of overall volume and intensity, both are going to be higher. I have some lighter weight girls that I start here, their top sets at almost 8 to 9, and we can run this right through and they will be strong by the end. It's just something I've found over time and what works, and just being able to run with it just from knowing. So if we're looking at a lighter weight person, instead of this just 1x3, if there's someone that definitely needs to practice with singles, and generally a lighter weight person not lifting as much load, they're going to be able to get away with singles literally year round. We will not have to take them out. So we can do something here, which I've done with quite a few, is instead of like this 1x3, we'll do a 3x1 and do it kind of ascending. If we do start with a 6, 7, 8. If they're honest with their RPEs, this 8 for a lightweight person will not cause any kind of fatigue that's really going to hinder the rest of the block whatsoever. And then if we proceed to the second week, it's kind of the same. We'll do the same here. And then these last 2 weeks, you can even push it to a 9, so a 7, 8. And I've always found that no matter what, they kind of can just keep going. As long as the block's kind of laid out properly and they're here to express strength on these specific days, they turn up fresh. They take, hours, 40 hours or something to recover from a heavy session, rather than this person up here is going to take multiple days to recover. They generally have to spread the sessions apart quite a bit more. Frequency is going to be a lot less here. Like a lighter weight person is going to be squatting 3 times a week for the most part, whereas up here we won't go past 2 times a week. Some of them may even only be hitting a squat or a deadlift 1 time a week. It really depends on the person, but they have so much more recoverability coming into this session here, this person would, because there's so much more time as well. So if this person, they're going to be on a high frequency, so I'm going to write this here anyway. And then, we're going to have their back down stuff. We can generally start this. We're going to go 10s again. These can be, depending on the lifter, we can RP everything. If there's someone that, they struggle to select loads or they just need a hand in assisting it, you can prescribe weight ranges or something where it's going to be enough for them to create some sort of adaptations and get stronger. But for the most part, we're just going to RP. Let them express the strength in the way that they feel they're capable of. Generally, as I said earlier, they're going to be able to handle a lot more. So we finish this block, going up, and then these all RP. If there's someone that's going to be, that always likes to, go really hard on the first set or send the first set, we can just load drop. We can go, just an example. So if they're pushing this first set really hard and you notice that they slow down really fast, but they never adjust the load to manage that fatigue, just program it like this in a way that it makes them drop it, okay? This is the same for up here. If you notice that, they're slowing down really, really fast by the time they get here, it's the same sort of principle as this. Program the first set via RP, make them low drop after. They're just going to be able to recover better week to week, and you're going to be able to express the strength from that first set rather than all of them, because all of them is going to be too much. You're going to bleed into, a deadlift, another session. If they're squatting twice, you're going to bleed into that second session, and they won't be able to express the strength that they need. So I think that's